Growing problem, a growing sinkhole that is getting bigger by the minute. America Tonight's Michael Oku went to the bayou for a closer look at what's troubling the waters. Million tears.
To understand why Mona Dugas sings about heartbreak on the edge of this bayou, you'd have to understand a little about the place she mourns.
Our home, sweet home.
Bayou Corne is a remote stretch of southern Louisiana, deep in Cajun country, where the cypress trees and Spanish moss frame the swampland. Its 350 residents have been known to call their home, without a single trace of irony, a little slice of heaven. Today, heaven is not the word that comes to mind. You're describing a place that is beautiful, and yet it's being held together by bandages.
Right now it's being held together by bandages that are being ripped up every single day.
As in much of southern Louisiana, great wealth lies beneath the surface. Oil, natural gas, and right below here, the Napoleon Salt Dome, a massive salt finger 1 mile wide and 3 miles across. There are 53 wells in the salt dome. This well was drilled by Texas Brine in 1982 and sealed in 2011. At some point after that, the sidewall of the cavern began to collapse. The first sign of trouble came in May of 2012. The earth began to shake. Gas bubbled up in the bayous. On August 3, 2012, the ground began sinking. Trees and other objects were swallowed up as sediment moved into the cavern a mile below the surface. As the cavern fills up, the resulting sinkhole has grown larger by the day. Spanning a little more than 25 acres when we saw it, scientists predict it will spread to at least 40. I'm standing on a man-made levee which was built to contain the sinkhole, which is just on the other side of those trees. Only yesterday, officials here declared a Code 3 alert, which is the highest form of readiness after the sinkhole started bubbling, swirling, and swallowing more trees. What's potentially more terrifying is what's slowly rising to the surface. A noxious brew of crude oil, decaying debris, and tens of millions of cubic feet of explosive gases. Many residents of Bayou Corne, a mix of working-class people and retirees, have heeded state and local evacuation orders and fled. Some who've remained meet regularly for support at the local library.
They have found a larger than previously suspected amount of gas in the aquifer directly under my street.
What began as a support group has become a force for organizing, and they've attracted some powerful allies.
Everybody knows about him with the work he's done for Katrina, the work he's done in our military, and now the work he's doing with us.
General RUSSEL HONORE was the commander of Joint Task Force Katrina, responsible for coordinating military relief efforts for the hurricane-battered Gulf Coast. Widely considered a hero, he's become an outspoken advocate for communities like this.
Behind that is a vent well that goes underneath the bayou, and it's designed to vent out the gases, which is under this area over here where Oxy 3, the name of the well that the infraction happened at, has created gas pockets under this community, which has made it dangerous for people to live here.
Honore and a few residents took us out on a boat to show us both the beauty of this place and the hazards they're facing. This is incredibly beautiful, General.
That's why I wanted to see it. It speaks to this natural beauty that's been created by Mother Nature for hundreds of thousands of years.
There's risk every single day that these companies are operating. There's risk that something terrible could happen.
It goes beyond risk. I think in some cases it's a gamble.
In the last 30 years, 25 communities like Bayou Corne have been lost to industrial accidents or contamination. The General believes with all that mining, all that activity going on below, state regulators have not been tough enough.
The natural tendency when you approach a lawmaker is, oh yeah, but you know we cannot live without this industry. We've got to be nice to them. They might leave. Well, where are they going to go? Boston? New York? Miami? I don't think so.
Texas brine spokesman Sonny Cranch believes existing regulations are adequate. Do you believe that there should be more regulations, or at the very least, that the regulations should be much more tightly adhered to?
Well, yeah, these regulations are pretty strong. And certainly the local regulators, the state regulators, were watching this operation, you know, and were aware of everything. And again, we had no event for 28 years.
Texas Brine has offered Bayou Corne residents $875 a week while they are unable to live in their homes. But Sonny Cranch says the damage caused by the mining has to be weighed against the benefits.
Obviously, this situation was upsetting, but there are a lot of benefits that are derived from this raw material, this source of sodium chloride that we're delivering to a chemical industry that uses it for so many useful purposes. And I don't say we should just automatically accept it as a trade-off, but at the same time, I don't want to go down the road and say, oh yes, this was a terrible thing to do to the environment, and we were upsetting the course of nature, and we shouldn't do this anymore.
When you look at Louisiana, there's just this maze of all of these industries, all of the drilling and production, the pipelines, and now the export.
WILMA SUBRA is an environmental scientist and a MacArthur Fellow who has dedicated her life to helping southern Louisiana communities affected by industry. How common is it to have communities in this state emptied out, or at least evacuated in the way that we're seeing here in Bayou Corne?
When you have things like a train wreck, which petrochemicals spilled in the communities, when you have a rupture of a pipeline, or when you have an industrial facility have a big explosion, the people are evacuated. This happens frequently in Louisiana. There's a need for one, more regulations, stricter regulations, and then there's a need for two, enforcement for those regulations.
You've got moving parts and human beings and, you know, heavy equipment. Things will happen, but this scale, we didn't see that one coming.
Patrick CORREGES is the spokesperson for Louisiana's Department of Natural Resources. Should there be more regulations? Should there be stricter regulations?
Absolutely. We drafted a new set of regulations encompassing all activities dealing with salt mining, or solution mining, and storage is March or so. If we knew then we know now, it would have been either the well might not have been permitted, or would have had to have been located further inside the dome.
Is the industry good for Louisiana?
When it is operating, like I say, as it should, within the rules, as safely as it possibly can, without impacting coastal assets, without impacting the community in a negative way, it's very good.
But the petrochemical industry has hundreds of accidents every year in Louisiana. Many minor, but each one increases fears that the long-term health and safety of these communities are in jeopardy.
2 miles up the road, I mean, Grand Bayou is right there, and it no longer exists. In 2003, on Christmas Day, they were evacuated. A casing to a well broke, and gas was shooting like 30 feet in the air in someone's backyard. I think eventually, if it continues, they'll kill every community along the bayous.
Increasingly, residents complain the state's not doing enough, that it's simply too chummy with big gas and chemical. Activists staged a protest outside this industry conference in New Orleans.
In the next 3 days, approximately 30 staff members from 3 public agencies will be here at this hotel. Those agencies are the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Environmental Quality, and the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. They will be here at a meeting with the oil industry. They will not be in Geismar, where on June 13th, 2 workers died and 77 were sent to the hospital in an explosion at Williams Olefins plant. They will not be in Donaldsonville, where an explosion killed 1 worker on June the 14th. And they will not be in Bayou Corne, that is sinking week after week.
People here know how important the oil and gas industries are to their state. but they're beginning to question the cost. With over 150 facilities that manufacture and release toxic chemicals, locals call it Cancer Alley.
In 1998, at 36 years old with a 3-year-old child, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's why we built this home in '99, because Grady said, if you do this and you beat this, you can have whatever you want. So after an 11-hour surgery, chemotherapy and radiation, that's what he did. He built me my dream home.
A dream home in Bayou Corne. Once a little slice of heaven, today mostly barren.
I spent 37 years, 3 months, and 3 days in the Army defending this nation. And when we get attacked from within, things that make our citizens unsafe, it concerns me as a citizen. Well, the purpose of government and a democracy is to take care of the people, not to protect a company. We're about to send military capacity into Syria because people got poisoned by gas. We have dangerous gases being released every day in Louisiana.
Incredible. Correspondent Michael OKWU joins us again tonight. Michael, looking at that, are there people who still live in Bayou Corne? Are they in immediate danger?
Yeah, that's a good question, Joey. I mean, we believe that there are about 100 residents who still live in Bayou Corne, and the short answer is yes, they are facing some immediate danger as we sit here right now. All this time, the good news, if you can even use that phrase, the good news in all of this is that we knew that the sinkhole was situated about 1,000 feet away from the nearest homes. That's a little bit more than, 3 football fields. But I've been in touch today with some of the scientists who've been monitoring the sinkhole on a daily basis, and they tell me that the sinkhole is, as opposed to growing away from the community, which is what it's been doing for the last several weeks, just this week started growing towards the homes, and that in fact it is now about 26 acres and counting. But obviously the biggest issue here is that the sinkhole had another event this week. It started swallowing more trees, but really the big danger is the danger that you don't see. It's odorless, it's colorless, and of course it's the natural gases that we were talking about just in that report. They are now in the aquifer, and we understand that they've migrated into people's homes as well as on the roadways and also on their lawns. So it's something they have to be concerned about.
Very frightening for all of those folks. Michael, we'll ask you to follow up America Tonight's Michael OKWU for us. And when America Tonight